Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be doing a wrap-up style video for the first quarter of the reading year. As we are in April, obviously January through March has completed, and I don't know about everybody else, but it went by very, very quickly for me. I had a very busy first quarter of the year, just between like work and illness. It's just that time of the year that if you have kids, there's so much to do and everybody is sick because it's the winter time and those germs are kind of being recycled throughout your house. So it just feels like there's a lot happening in those first few months of the year. On a positive note, in terms of reading, those first few months have been excellent for me. I decided to change things up a little bit at the beginning of the reading year this year. I scaled back a little bit on my TBRs, making them a little bit tighter and giving myself a little more flexibility to pick up books that I was in the mood to read, rather than feeling like I had to stick to this kind of prescribed set of books. And that has made a really big difference to my reading year. I have found that very enjoyable, and so there's been a lot of books that I have really liked. And for some of those books, I've been able to go into a lot of detail about that, either through live shows or full book reviews or recommendations lists. But when you read like anywhere between 8 to 10 books per month, it can be hard to highlight all of them as much as you want to. And since this reading year has been so fruitful for me, I have loved so many of the things that I have read. So I feel like there's lots of things that I would like to talk about more, but I just haven't had the time to talk about them as much as I would have liked. And if life has been as busy for all of you as it has been for me, it's been really hard to keep up on watching every single video from every single person whose channel I really admire. And so hopefully if some of you haven't been able to see all of the videos that I've been putting out this year, this one will serve as a good reflection of the kinds of things that I've been reading and what you can expect coming up from the channel in the future. And how I thought I'd organize this is just kind of go through the different kind of pre-2023 videos I made back at the end of last year and just walk through them and see how I have been doing. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is just go through my reading goals for 2023 and see how successful I have been with those. So at the beginning of every year when I put together my book journal, I lay out a series of goals for myself. And this year I had 5 goals that I wanted to stick to. One of them is always my Goodreads goal, which I try to predict what that's going to be based on the things that I have coming up in the year. So if it seems to be like a really busy year where I think I'm going to be doing a lot work-wise or, personally, I try to keep that number a little bit lower. If it feels like I have a lot of time to read, I, make it a little bit larger. But ultimately, it's just an arbitrary reading goal. This year, I had set it at 72 books. And at the end of March, I had reached 32 out of those 72 books, which is a little bit over 40% of the books for the year. So definitely on track with that. I do expect that my reading will probably go down a little bit in I was going to say the second quarter, but it might actually be like the third quarter. I don't know. We're taking a family trip coming up at the end of April, beginning of May. So I expect that's probably going to make reading slow. And then the summertime is usually a bit of a toss-up because, we're working, bringing the kids back and forth to activities, doing summer things. The weekends are usually eaten up with wanting to get outside, enjoy the sunshine, all of those types of things. So definitely this first quarter of the year is usually my most productive reading-wise because you're in the house a lot more, or at least here where I live, I'm in the house a lot more at this time of the year, but very happy to be sticking on track for the Goodreads goal for that. The second goal that I had in my book journal was to read 12 works of nonfiction. And if you have been following along with the channel, you might think, I haven't seen Sarah talk about any nonfiction this year. And that would be absolutely right, because I have read 0 out of those 12. I used to, in past years, put this as 1 per month, and this is always what would happen. I would go for a couple of months without reading any, and then I would have a few months where I read like 3 or 4 during the month, and so I thought, once a month is, again, just assigning myself tasks every month, and it makes it feel heavy, and it makes it feel like something that I might not want to follow through on, so I just said 12 throughout the year. I do think this is still going to be fine and I'm going to be on track. I'm actually almost finished with 2 works of nonfiction that I will definitely finish. I'll finish both of them in April, and I'm really liking both of them, so I'll be excited to talk about them in my April wrap up. And I have a few more on hold at either the library or a couple lined up from Audible that I'm going to be listening to. I think the thing that was pulling me away from nonfiction the most so far this year is that I have been listening to the Memoirs of Lady Trent on audio, which I have been really enjoying. But usually audiobook time for me is for nonfiction because that's how I like to consume nonfiction. I like to listen to it. It feels like a lecture, or I don't know, it feels like something that I'm used to. And so I enjoy doing it that way, but I have not used my audiobook time for nonfiction this year. But I think that once I finish that series, the Memoirs of Lady Trent, I'll probably get back into reading or listening to more nonfiction. The third reading goal that I had for this year was to read 50 books from my physical TBR. So at the beginning of 2020, or at the very end of 2022, December 30th or 31st, whenever I put together my new reading journal for this year, I drew like this big library spread that lots of people do in their book journals, and I put the title of every book that I physically owned that I had not yet read. And my goal is to read 50 of those before the end of the year. Last year, I had set the very lofty goal of 50% of the books that I read coming from that. And I had read, 120 books or something last year, and I did not come close to that. So I wanted a concrete number this year that I could count and kind of tick off as I was going. And 50 seemed like a good number. I have about, and this is really embarrassing to admit, but I think I have around 300 books that I own that I haven't read. Almost none of which are in this library, like they're in different parts of the house, but I do really want to get through that. So I'm trying to not purchase as many and to actually read through the ones that I have. So I have read 10 of those books so far this year, and in April I have a bunch of them on my TBR, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to improve on that as the year goes by. 10 out of 50 is 20%, so it's not terrible. Like the first quarter you would want to get that up to 25%, but it's not awful. So I think I'm going to try to work a little bit harder on that, and I think I'll be able to meet that goal. I was hoping that I could kind of surpass it, and I've been doing some mini challenges within my Discord because there's other people in there who also have big personal TBR stacks that they want to get through. So we've been kind of like cheering each other on. We've got a whole channel in the Discord for talking about the books that we're reading from our own library. So if you find that you have a really big stack of books that you want to get through and you want some friends to kind of help you along the way, then definitely pop into Discord because we will have your back in terms of that. The fourth goal was to finish 8 ongoing series. So I did a list at the end of 2022. I did a video with all of the open series that I had, and there were 17 series on that list, like 17 series that I had started but had not finished. And so as a nice round goal for myself, I thought I will try to finish 8 of those. So close off 8 of those series. I knew that I would open new series this year, start reading from other series. So I wanted to get some of those older ones finished. And I have managed to finish 2 of those. I'm kind of cheating a little bit for one because one I finished on the first day of April, but I thought, you know what, I'll just count it. So the 2 series I managed to finish were The First Law. So specifically the Age of Madness trilogy, because that's the one that I had left. So I finished off my journey through the First Law universe, and then I also finished the manga series Monster, which I will be discussing with Jimmy and Alan at some point in the near future, and I'm very excited to do that. So I do have what did I say? I started off with 17, so I have 15 more series to choose from. And ones that I think are probably going to be highest priority over the next 3 months would be the Dagger and Coin series by Daniel Abraham. I am reading book 2 with a friend next month and hoping to continue on from there. And then I also want to catch up on the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne. A bunch of people on Discord have been reading that second book over the last couple of weeks, and they're so excited about it. It really makes me want to read it. And I really wanted to jump into that buddy read, but I just did not have the time. But it is going to be high priority for me over the next couple of months. And then my final reading goal was to read 6 classics for the year. And I have read 1 out of those 6, which again is not terrible. That was Jane Eyre. I did this as a reread after reading Wide Sargasso Sea at the beginning of the year. I really wanted to reread Jane Eyre. I've got a couple of classic buddy reads lined up for this year as well. I'm going to be reading Jude the Obscure. I think in June, I'm going to be reading a Jane Austen book that I haven't read before. I can't remember if it's Emma or Sense and Sensibility, but one of those over the next couple of months. And then I have lots of classics here that I haven't read. The Hound of the Baskervilles is one. The Count of Monte Cristo, which is giant. So I don't know if that will be one of the ones that I read this year, but I do have a lot of like random classics that are lying around that I have not yet read. So hopefully it won't be too hard to follow through on that goal. But those are the 5 like reading goals that I had for the beginning of the year. After that, I have my 23 books to read in 2023 list, which are usually like my top priority reads that I want to get to. Sorry, we talked about germs at the beginning of the video. Everyone in my house is once again sick, so I had to take a little coughing break there. But on the 23 books to read in 2023 list, I have read 3 of them, which again is not like phenomenal, but I'm almost finished 2 more. So the books that I'm reading right now in April, 2 of those are on that list. Actually, I think 3 or 4 of the ones on that list are on my April TBR, but 2 of them I have almost completed, so definitely we'll get through those in April. And I am going to try to prioritize that a little bit more. That's what this check-in was good for, is because it forced me to go back and actually look at these lists and reflect on them and see which ones I had read or not read. So it is putting me back on track, hopefully. And I think that I'm going to be able to get to most, if not all of those books this year. Then we had my high priority series for 2023. So there were 6 series on this list, and I can just name them because there's only 6 of them. So there was the Books of Babel, which I have started. I read the very first book, Senlin Ascends, in January. And unfortunately, I think if I had to pick a most disappointing book of the year, Senlin Ascends takes that award, which makes me really sad because I thought I would love that book and this series. I have not DNF'd the series. I am going to go on to book 2 and give it one more book. So we'll see if I love book 2. If it really ropes me in, then I'll continue with the series. If I don't feel great about book 2, then I probably will let this one go, which will make me really sad. But also I have a lot of things that I want to read. The second high priority series was the Memoirs of Lady Trent, which I am absolutely loving. I have read 3 of 5 of those books, and I imagine that I will finish that series in this coming quarter. So when I do this next update, I'm sure that that one will be done. After that, we had the Regante series, which I have not started. I do still want to read that, and I do have a couple of friends who really love David Gemmell on the Discord, so hopefully I'll be able to get them to read that with me. And that might end up being like a second half of the year series for me, which is fine, because I find those like adventure-style fantasy books work well for like the fall into the winter. So that's probably around the time of year that I will try to read that. We also have the Chorus of Dragons series. I think that's what the series is called, which has 5 books, and I have not yet started that. I do have book 1 upstairs, and that one is going to be another high priority series for the next quarter, I think. I don't know if I will start it in May. It might end up being June when I start book 1, but if I can get through my other reading commitments next month, I may try to read the first book in May as well. I'm really looking forward to this series. A couple of friends on Discord read it last year, and they were having such a good time reading it. I was having the worst, envy possible as I was watching them chat about it. Seeing all those blacked out boxes of text in Discord just ignites something in me. I hate it. I hate seeing people talk about things that they love without being able to weigh in. And it's because I talk too much and I want to be in all the conversations, but they seem like they were having such a good time, and I really, really want in on that good time. So I will be starting that series very, very soon. After that, the Rook and the Rose series I had on my list to start because I do have the first book, Mask of Mirrors, and some booktubers whose opinions I find align with mine a lot of the time had really liked that series last year. So I'm going to give it a try. And again, this one might be like a later part of the year start for me, but I am still committed to reading it this year. And then the manga series that I had as high priority for this year is Tokyo Ghoul. My husband watched the anime a long time ago, and then read the manga series for the first time last year, and he really wants me to read it so that I can chat about it with him. Probably not on the channel because he's not going to come on the channel, but I can chat with him about it in real life. And then I will probably watch the anime. I have not finished a lot of manga series where I haven't read or watched the anime first, so it'll be fun to read Tokyo Ghoul and then go back and watch the anime and see how I feel about it. But I'm going to start that one fairly soon as well. I was waiting until I had finished Monster, but now that Monster is done, I can get ready and dive into Tokyo Ghoul. After that, I just wrote down a couple of the new releases. So I had a new releases, or like most anticipated fantasy releases for 2023 list that I have also been trying to stick to. I have them written out in my agenda, but it's really hard because I really want to read the books that I already own while also wanting to read these new releases. So in order to try to cut down on like the unread books I have in my home, I've just been putting holds on these new releases from the library, which means that I usually don't get to read them right away. Like there's usually a wait for new books, so I haven't been able to read them as soon as they come out. But I have read a couple. I read The Daughters of Izdahar and I read The Keeper 6. Obviously, high priority new releases for me would be Philip's book, The Way of Adon. I also really want to read Fonda Lee's new novella that she has coming out. One that wasn't on my list, but I really want to read is The Encyclopedia of Fairies, because I saw so many people loving that book at the beginning of the year. So I do have that one on hold at the library. There's a bunch of them. I'm going to try my best to balance my reading with some new books interspersed, but again, doing that from the library because I'm trying not to buy new books and have even more unread books in my home. And that's it for the kind of like wrap-up style information that I have in this video. Just to touch on the channel briefly, life has been really busy, so videos have been fewer in volume this year, but I have still really enjoyed the videos that I've been making. The good thing about not having a lot of time to film is that I do have a lot of ideas that I think are fun and interesting to do this year, and I have them all like mapped out and what I want to do. It's just finding the time to record them. So hopefully as the year kind of settles down a little bit, I will find more time to be able to do that. I think realistically 2 videos a week is probably going to be my schedule for most of 2023. But hopefully there will be some things on the horizon that everybody will be excited for. If there are videos that you would like to see, things that I haven't done in a while, or things that you would like to see me do, then please feel free to suggest. I am happy to take any suggestions that you may have. And that is it. Like I said, this was a great beginning of the reading year. I've had a really, really fun 3 months. Lots of great discussions. There's lots of great discussions, group things on the horizon that I'm looking forward to taking part in. And as always, I'm just really thankful to have everybody here. I'm glad for all of your company, your conversation. For anybody who's in Discord and comes to keep me company there, then I also really appreciate that. And I will see you all with another video soon. Bye.